black thing go from left to right, and I thought, I'm going to die out here. No one's ever going to know.
I couldn't believe what my eyeballs were showing me. I'll never forget how evil the eyes were. It was horrible. I mean, I've never seen nothing that evil.
It ran towards me at a rate that I can't even explain, turned and stared at me. And this look of, I just want to kill you. I want to say it was human, but it wasn't.
He was yelling at me to grab a gun, grab a gun. I was like, for what? He said, just grab a gun. And there's footprints all the way to the door of my house. It had went inside my garage all the way to the door.
911, what are you reporting?
Jesus Christ, you better...
Sir?
Zio!
Hello?
Get somebody out here.
What's going on now, sir?
That son of a bitch is about 6'9", I don't know.
Do you see him now, sir?
Yes, I'm looking right at him.
Uh-oh.
You're listening to Sasquatch Chronicles. Check us out online at sasquatchchronicles.com. If you've had an encounter, email me. My email address is wes@sasquatchchronicles.com. Welcome to the show, everyone. Thanks for being here tonight. Got a great show planned for you tonight. Going to be speaking to... Spocking. It's been a long weekend. Going to be speaking to Greg Yost. And Greg is a Sasquatch researcher. And I've been following Greg online for a while. And he definitely does get some good pictures. He's had some encounters. I know he spent 10 years in the Navy. And I know he's getting close up into retirement age. And Greg had an encounter back several years back, and he's been addicted to this ever since. He's had several encounters since then, and he'll be sharing some of that with us tonight. That was a mouthful. How are you guys doing tonight? I want to give a shout out to Steve. Steve from Texas. He's a member here on the site. I met up with him this morning. We went and had breakfast. Steve, thanks for breakfast. It was great meeting you. And safe travels to Seattle. If I can sneak away in the morning, I'll take you up and take you to some areas. But I want to give a shout out to Steve. Steve, thank you again for breakfast. It was a pleasure meeting you. If you've had an encounter and you'd like to be on the show, shoot me an email. My email address is wes@sasquatchchronicles.com. And if you get a chance, check out the website, sasquatchchronicles.com. You get your daily blog. You can become a member, help support the show. Thank you again, guys, for listening tonight. Let's jump into it. I want to welcome Greg to the show. Greg, welcome to the show.
Hey, Wes. Thanks for having me on. My privilege.
Yeah, no, it's great to have you on here, and thank you again for coming on. I know a lot of your encounters took place and are still taking place to this day in Indiana. But, you know, there was a time where, I know we were just talking about it before we came on the air, of how much you actually believed that these things were real. But if you would you kind of walk into that first encounter for the audience? Tell us kind of what you were doing and what you saw.
Yeah, okay, yeah, no problem, Wes. Well, actually, it was about this time, a couple of days before Thanksgiving, back in 2002. Yeah, I was laid off from my job. I was a welder at a factory. You know, and anybody remembers the early 2000s, up to the mid-2000s, it was a pretty bad recession. You know, and the plant I worked at even ended up closing. Before that, they had a lot of layoffs, so I had a lot of free time. And, you know, come the fall and the winter, I'm the kind of guy that likes to get out. You know, I wasn't working. I had a lot of energy. I started taking my dog out to the forest, and we go to different forests and, you know, hang out, take hikes, whatever. And this one particular night, I went to Ferdinand, Indiana, and, you know, I got a lot of good connection there. My mom grew up there, and I got cousins live there, and they got a state park out there. My grandfather helped engineer and build back in 1933. and it's kind of like on the tail end of the Hoosier National Forest. So, I mean, a lot of woods out that way. So I went out there, you know, with the intentions of hanging out. They had a little area there. You went across a dam, and there was a big hill there. There was a nice, beautiful lake. And, you know, like I said, this was late November. There wasn't a soul in the whole forest, pitch dark. So, you know, we get out, I build a fire, and, you know, just nice, crystal cold. It was a beautiful night. All the stars were out. You know, we was having a good time. And, yeah, I was cooking some hot dogs, and, yeah, I brought a couple beers with me. You know, just a bored man finding something to do instead of sitting, you know, at home watching TV every night. So this other dog comes up, you know, and it was like a mix between a beagle and a blue-tick hound. And he just come out of nowhere, and he started playing around with Buddy, and, you know, they wasn't going far or nothing, you know, around the campfire. And, you know, I'm just sitting there, you know, looking into the fire thinking, you know, am I going to get called back to my job? Am I going to have to find another job, you know? You know, it kind of it's rough being laid off. So, it was all of a sudden, man, up on this big hill, I started hearing this loud crashing noise. You know, I mean, the best I can describe it, you know, like I say, right out of a nice, quiet night, and not a sound going on, and here's this, you know, coming down this hill at a fast rate of speed. I'm like, damn, what is that? And he's coming, it's getting louder and louder, trees breaking, branches breaking. You know, I'm just sitting on this picnic table by the fire. You know, I'm just froze, man. You know, looking in that direction, going, man, what in the hell is this coming down this hill? And I mean, all the way down in this big tree, you know, where the forest ended right there, where they had the little cutout there, and they had a few campgrounds there, you know, like 4 or 5 camp areas. It was a remote camping, and that was it. And then, like I said, the rock rolled back across the dam, so there was a big tree there, about 20 feet up the hill, and he stopped behind that tree, and Buddy and this other dog went up there about 10 feet from the tree, and they sat down and just stared up at the tree. So you know, I'm still froze, you know, on the picnic table, you know, trying to figure out what this thing is, and then I hear him breathing, and it was a real guttural, you know, like the dude had a bad case of asthma, like it was like, you know, like, yeah, and I was like, holy cow, man, I mean, what is this thing, man? And, you know, so I snapped back the reality, and I was in the Navy 10 years, and, you know, I'm pretty good at defending myself, and I'll never shy away from a fight if I had to. And, you know, I was like, man, I got to get serious here. And so I started screaming for Buddy. I'm like, Buddy, Buddy. And he wouldn't even turn around. And here's this dog I had for 16 years before he passed. And he wouldn't even turn around. I mean, he was my boy, my partner. You know, we had more encounters after this together, but this is their first one together. And he's just sitting there looking up at the tree, and you know, I'm screaming, man. And I'm like, man, I'm going to have to do something. So my car was parked right there, about 5 feet from the picnic table and the fire I had going. And I reached in there, and I had a Colt 45 in there. So I cocked it and put a round in the chamber, and I pointed it up to the tree, and I go, hey, look, I don't know what you are, who you are up there. I go, I don't want no trouble from you. I go, you come around that tree and mess with me and my dog, you know, I'm going to have to put some of this lead in you. I go, I'm armed. I go, I will use it. And yeah, he's still up there. You know, I can almost feel this vibration from him breathing. You know, I'm only like 15, 20 feet away from him, and so I'm still calling Buddy, man. So I'm like, man, I got to get my dog, man, and get out of here quick. So I inch my way up to Buddy, you know, the whole time trying to get him to come, and yeah, I'm afraid to look up at the tree. I don't even want to see what this thing is. I had no idea what this thing was, and I still had my gun pointed up there. And I'm like, hey, look, I don't want no trouble. I go, please, man. I go, don't come around that tree. And I finally get up to Buddy, and I put my left arm around him. You know, and I'm right-handed, and Buddy's about a 125-pound dog. He was a chow mixed golden retriever, and he looked like a big teddy bear. I mean, just a great dog. And so I'm trying to grab him, man, get some leverage on him. You know, still aiming my gun up at the tree, you know, trying to watch it. If this thing's going to come around, you know, it's a pretty vulnerable spot right there. You know, actually 10 feet from the creature. So I finally get Buddy, and I back up to the car, and I throw him in the car, and I jump in, and I back up to the end of the dam area, and I notice I left my cooler, my cigarettes, and everything up there, and you know, I mean, I was shaking, man. I was nervous as hell. I go, man, I need a cigarette bad, and I was out in the middle of nowhere. So I'm like, man, sorry. I mean, as scared as I was, I'm like, I'm going back up there and getting that. So you know, I backed out that way. So when I went back up to the table, I hit my brights, and I did look up at the tree this time, and I seen a big, what looked like a left hand in a forearm, and it had big old black fingers that looked like cigars, and the fingernails were black. Yeah, I mean, just big old ugly fingers, and it had hair on them. The hair was hanging off, and he got hairier as it went up his forearm, and it was a huge forearm. I mean, huge, man. You know, the hair was hanging off of the arm. You know, that's about all I seen of it. You know, again, I didn't want to look up any higher, man, and look at this dude's face. So I jump out. Again, I had my gun out. I'm like, I'm just getting my stuff, man. And I looked over the direction, and that poor dog was still there looking up there. You know, and I know I should have probably tried to get him. But again, you know, I was pushing my luck, man. I mean, I was fearing for my life, and you know, I really didn't want to jeopardize, you know, dying that night, man, over a stray dog. So I thought I made the right decision, man, and I got back in my car, and I took back up, went up the dam, and I got out of the forest, and then on the way home, I was about an hour from my house. You know, and on the way home, you know, it all set in, man, and, you know, the Patterson film, the Legend of Boggy Creek, you know, all this stuff I seen when I was a teenager. You know, like I was telling you, I seen the Patterson film on the Johnny Carson show, and it was really huge to be on that show back then. You only had 3 TV stations, and that was some big-time stuff there, and so it all started coming together. I'm like, hey, these things are real. I mean, you know, that's the only thing that thing could have been. And, you know, so I decided, you know, from that day on, I'm going to find out what these things are all about. I'm going to get out in the woods as much as I can. And that's what I've been doing ever since that night.
Does it worry you going back out there?
No, it doesn't worry me at all. You know, some people may be afraid of and think they're killers or monsters, but I don't. I've had a lot of encounters. I've seen a lot of them, and I used to be scared of them, man, but until I got to know them, and no, I don't fear them at all now. I don't carry guns. I do carry a knife, but that's more for other predators. Like I said, I truly believe the forest giants will not harm me. I mean, that first incident in Ferdinand, he could have come around that tree and had me for a late night snack. I mean, that's how big this rascal was coming down off that hill. I will never forget that night. So I started piecing that together. I'm like, well, and then I had another incident. And if you want, I'll tell you about the next incident. This really sealed my faith and integrity into these people that they're not going to hurt me or harm me. After this, my second encounter, I'm going to tell you about. And if you like, I'll get into it.
Yeah, go ahead, Greg.
Okay. Well, about 3 years passed since the Ferdinand charge. I always put a name on my incidents or encounters. That way I can keep them in order and whatnot. And this next one, I call this one the Knob Stone Stowdown. This is a trail here in southern Indiana, and it stretches about 60 miles or so through the knobs and hills of beautiful southern Indiana. And again, this was in November. And I was working at this time, but I got off at 2:30 every day. So we were, about 2 or 3 times a week, me and Buddy would take a walk out there on the Knob Stone. So this one particular November day, it was a little later than what I wanted to get out, but it was probably around 5 o'clock, 5:30. And I usually walked about 2.5 miles down this one part and then turned around and come back. In the fall here in Indiana, it gets dark about 6:30 or earlier sometimes. So we got into about the 2.5 mile mark, and it was just getting. It wasn't dark. I'd say dusk. It's still pretty light, but it's always dark in the woods. So we sat down. I got his water bowl out, and I gave him some water, and I got my water out, and we were sitting down right there on the trail by a tree, and this little buck comes walking by, and he was a little bitty guy, and I remember seeing the velvet velour, whatever they call it, on his rock coming up. They were a little bitty rock, young, proud-looking buck. I was like, look at that, buddy. You don't even see us, and I go, isn't that beautiful? I go, this is what we come out here for, and he's giving me the last, we just love seeing stuff like that. And, best I can describe it, man, there's a big wall of vegetation there, like honeysuckle and ivy and stuff. Stuff that normally stays green in the winter. And he went behind that, it was like going behind a building, and that was it. So, we thought, we've seen that. It was cool. And then all of a sudden, all hell broke loose over there. Branches were breaking, big heavy footsteps. Buddy's ears were up. Like, man, what's going on? I'm out in the woods a lot. I've never heard such a ruckus, man. And all of a sudden, this little buck comes shooting out, horizontal. Then he hits the ground and jumps back up horizontal. This thing was flying. It looked like he got shot out of a cannon. Me and Buddy's watching him flying down through the ravine. So then all of a sudden it sets in, and like I say, Buddy's my best friend. I always talk to him, and I'm like, well, I wonder what scared that little feller. And about that time, I was kneeled down. I put his leash on his collar. Sometimes he likes chasing wild animals like that. He had a bad habit of doing that. And so I was chaining him up, and his head went from left from the deer, and it went right. As I was looking down, hooking him up, and all of a sudden, his hair come up on his back, and he started, real ferocious. I was like, holy shit, man. And so I slowly look up, and I wasn't expecting to see this, man. But right there where I was telling you earlier about the ivy wall there, well, there was two Sasquatch people standing there about a foot out from the wall there. And your buddy was going nuts, man, trying to, wanting to attack him. So I stand up and I'm holding Buddy back. And I was looking from, the person, and he's on the left, and the next one's on the right. And I was 30 feet from him, 30 to 70 feet. It's hard to estimate, maybe 35, 40. I mean, it was pretty close. I really wasn't thinking distance at the time. I looked over, like I said, the red one, and the best way to describe this guy, he was, I seen a picture of Geronimo, a real old picture of him, an Indian chief, and he almost looked like him. He had a leather skin, and the top of his head, his hair was, his hairline was almost in the middle of his head. He looked like a real old man, but he was very big. He was probably 6'10", 7 feet, real muscular, and he had a real nice, like a Labrador Retriever, that kind of golden red hair, and pretty big chest, pretty big shoulders. I didn't look too much down past their, their chests there. I was looking mainly in their eyes. So I turned to the one on the right, and this guy here was a black one. And the best way I can tell you about him, he looked like King Kong. He was a little taller than the red one, but it wasn't that much taller. He might have been 7'1", 7'2", because it looked like he was only like 3 or 4 inches bigger than the red one. But he had a real bushy hairline right over his eyes, and his eyes were deeper set in his head. And he had like a black mustache, and the color of his skin was like a light color black man's skin. Not real dark, kind of like that color. And he had that hair all around his face. It was kind of hard to see his face. He was real hairy, hairier than, like I said, than the red one. So I'm looking at him. And I go back to the red one, and I notice they're looking down at Buddy more than they're looking at me. And I still, restraining Buddy, trying to tell him to shut up, and trying to, figure out what in the hell's going on right here. It was so real. It was like being in a dream. It was kind of hard to. All the emotions and everything flowing to me. I was scared. My adrenaline was flowing. I was excited. I thought I was probably going to die. All this was going through my head, and I'm trying to figure out how to get out of this, with my life and with Buddy's life. And so, again, my Navy background kicked in. And I've always been taught, back in my Navy days, no matter what the circumstances are, even if you're unarmed, don't let your enemy know you're scared of them. Look them in the eye. Let them know that you're in charge out here and you're going to win. And that's the way it's going to be. So believe it or not, I took control. I casually reached down. I put the bow back in the backpack. So I slung it over my shoulder, and I kind of said, "I'm sorry, guys, we're not on the menu tonight." And I looked down at Buddy. I said, "Buddy," I said, "if we got to fight them, you take the red one, I'll take the black one, man. And if we don't make it, I'll see you in heaven, buddy." And I really meant that. So I said, "Come on, let's get out of here, man." This was probably a 4 or 5 minute stare down. That's why I call it the stare down on Knob Stone Trail. So I tugged on Buddy, and we started walking down the trail. and it curved over to the left. So the whole time, I'm looking at them, like, okay, man, when are they going to come at us? And I was looking around for logs, rocks, whatever I could get for a weapon. I didn't have anything, just Buddy. And I'm sure they probably would have ripped him apart. So we go around the turn, and I lost sight of them. So again, being a military man, I'm like, well, they're probably gonna come around the right here and flank me. They think I'm gonna be looking to the left, so they're probably gonna come out of the right. So the whole 2.5 miles back, I was a nervous wreck. It was almost getting totally dark, and we didn't have a flashlight. And luckily I was on a trail. I probably would have got lost. So I didn't hear him coming. I never heard him again. And then again, same thing on the way home. I was freaking out. I'm like, well, I ain't telling nobody this. A lot of people thought I was crazy after the first one. I was trying to tell them. And I go, man, I've seen 2 of them, right there in front of me. They were real. I know what they look like. I know everything. And they were standing there, and they didn't growl, and I didn't smell them, or none of that stuff you hear. They acted like a perfect gentleman. They didn't have to come around that ivy. They could have stayed back here. I never would have seen them. They stepped out from that ivy. They wanted me to see them, and I think they really liked me because I didn't let Buddy loose on them. I didn't show any aggression. I stood up to him. I didn't act like a little whimpering scaredy cat running off and screaming. I stood there and I stood my ground, man, and I looked them in the eyes, and I didn't back down. And from that day on, it's been a roller coaster ride with them since then, because I think that day that they figured out who I was.
How far away from you was the creatures?
Well, like I said, the 2, the red and the black one, I'd guesstimate the 35 to 70, 75 feet. I tried to go back through there again, but they have logged that area now, so that part of the trail has been wiped out. But I'll just say 50 feet to be on the safe side. So, that's a pretty good short distance.
Yeah, that is. That's really close. And as far as the face goes, if someone were to ask you what you saw, let's say the term Sasquatch doesn't exist, how would you describe it to them? I know you did a great job describing those two that you saw. My question, though, is more towards, would you say it's more human-like, or would you say it's more animal-like? How would you describe the faces that you saw?
I would describe them as some type of tribal people. These I call them people. They're not animals. These guys look like people, even though they were monsters. They treated me with respect. That's what people are supposed to do to people. And, I totally believe, man, I got a heart of gold, and I got great intentions, and I'm one with the forest, and I just love the forest, man, and I think they read that to me, and I don't think, animals, they can't do stuff like that, and animals can't build structures and leave gifts and rock-like and some of the other stuff we might talk about later. Animals can't do this stuff, and these guys I seen that night, they weren't animals. The Indian dude, he looked like a peaceful old man. I didn't have any fear at all, man. He was looking at me with gentle, loving eyes, and their eyes wasn't red, green, whatever. They were black, and they were like big puppy dog eyes. And the black one, the same thing. he was just looking at me like in a curious way, like, hey, we've been wanting to see one of you people or whatever, whatever their intentions were that evening. And I checked them out. They checked me out. They stood their ground. I stood my ground. And I'm like, well, I'm leaving. So, I don't know how much longer I could have stood there looking at them.
Let me ask you, were they proportioned like a human being?
Well, yeah, as far as they're an enemy, like I said, I really didn't see them past the chest area, but I could tell they had real long arms, a lot longer than ours. And the chest, on the black one, like I said, it looked like King Kong, and his shoulders were probably 3.5, 4 feet wide, and his shoulders looked like bowling balls. They just look like big, hairy humans with big old muscles and almost perfect bodies. Really good. Like if you compare it with a big weightlifter, you can see the muscular biceps, the shoulders, the neck. You can see the muscles in their necks. But yet at the same time, they were people looking. They had hands, they had feet just like ours. They had legs. A lot of people ask me if I looked at their genital area. No, I didn't look down there. Didn't look at their feet. I was more worried about their eyes, reading their eyes, seeing what's going to happen next. So, it wasn't like I was, looking at them, in that perspective. But I did look at their faces plenty of good, though, and no, they did not look like animals. And yes, I think they're tribal people, to answer your question.
I understand. I wanted to also ask you, with your first encounter, is all of this happening basically in this general area that you're at there in Indiana?
Well, that one there happened about 70 miles away, and all my encounters now are happening about 40 miles east of that area. But the thing about it, it all runs through the Hoosier National Forest, and up at Bloomington, there's a Morgan Monroe, finding Bigfoot even to show up there. That's another real populated area with the people. And from what I study on the maps, it's one big area here. So it really doesn't matter the area I go to. But I got an area now that I've been hitting for the last 5 years. And this is where the Curious George, the pictures I sent you, I've seen him out here in this area. I've seen a mama and a baby. I sent you that picture. I've seen them out here in this area. And that's a rare photo. That baby's blue, and I believe it was a newborn. And you can see in the photo the mama's reaching down getting it. And I got zapped, man. I fell down to my knees. I almost flew up. I don't know what was going on when I took them pictures. But as soon as I regained, I was confused, disorientated. I never felt this feeling. And as I left the area, I regained all my senses and everything. And it's like, man, what just happened? And I knew nothing about stuff like that until later in my research days. And then I started going, well, an animal can't do that. And then I started seeing more and more. And now I'm at the point where I talked to you on the phone yesterday. I'm seeing orbs. I'm seeing big lights. I'm seeing their eyes glowing. I hate to tell people, man, but animals don't associate with that kind of stuff. Yeah,
No,
that's poor.
and neither do humans.
Exactly.
And so it makes you wonder what's going on there. I want to ask you about that, about some of the weird stuff. Did that start when you first got into it? You said you thought there were people, and then did it just keep getting weirder and weirder, or did all of this stuff kind of all start from the beginning, as far as seeing lights and?
No. I hadn't. No, the light stuff just started within the last couple of years. I always thought they were trying to find different theories and stuff. The Neanderthal man, and I read up a lot of books about him going down to Africa, stealing women, taking them back up north, and I thought that might have been some kind of spin-off between that. And then I looked at the religious aspect of it, where a lot of chapters and verses in the Bible speak of 200 angels coming down to earth to help mankind make decisions, not physically help them, but mentally, as it was a trying time here on earth, and God knew we needed their help. So, unfortunately, 180 of these angels, which where you got the term fallen angel, so started having a sex and whatnot with human women. And Scripture says God was so furious, he damned these offspring to be a big hairy beast. So I started looking into that theory. It's just real baffling.
And now what do you think? And now what do you think, Greg? After all these years, and I want to get into seeing the lights and different stuff like that. But now, what do you think? What do you think that these things are?
Not to sound crazy or whatever, but like I say, I'm a man of truth, and I speak from my experiences and what I see, and from what I have experienced and seen. I'm not going to brush the subject or tell you bits and pieces of it. I'll tell you the whole thing. I think there are interdimensional creatures, beings, people that come from another planet, and they come to Earth through portals, and there has been too many UFO, Bigfoot stories and encounters. I just talked to a 70-year-old farmer up in my hotspot. There was a wedding up there a couple months ago, and he seen my Bigfoot stickers, and this was an old 70-year-old farmer, a heartland of America here in Indiana. He calls me over and he goes, hey, can I tell you something? I believe in them things. He goes, my farmer neighbor and buddy, my lifelong, pals, been next door neighbors forever. He goes, you know what he seen out in the field the other week? I go, a Bigfoot. And he goes, well, there's more to it than that. He seen a UFO come over his field, a beam of light come out of it, and he said a Bigfoot come out of the beam of light and got in his cornfield and started walking away. Him and his wife were standing there at the door and watching the whole thing. He goes, buddy, this guy is a God-fearing, religious, good old farmer that would not come up with a story like this to impress me or my wife. We're the only ones he told it to. He goes, and I'm just telling you because you look like a pretty legitimate dude that's into these things. And he goes, that's all, and he walks off. So my buddy, John Gregory and Eugene, we all heard the story. So I got like, see, I go, there's something more to it, guys. There's something more to it. So anyway, and then after I told you about the encounter, with the real big bright locomotive light and the multiple people, I'm totally convinced now there's so much more going on. Do they come from UFOs? Do they come through portals? I got to see this for myself, but I think I'm getting really close to seeing it because of two encounters I'm going to tell you about here in a minute that blew me and the people with me away, and we still can't figure out this one. So if you'd like to hear it, I'd get into that one.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, since we're on, the subject, anyway, this was a cold March, windy, rainy night. Me, John Gregory, and Eugene were driving around the park early Saturday morning. I'm showing John the whole layout of the forest. I mean, it's a huge forest. And this one road is a very less traveled, a one-way road. It leads to a dead-end lake. And there was a big tree fall over it. So we get out of my Jeep and everything, and we're checking it out. And just like a good detective, to be a good researcher, man, sometimes you got to live on your hunches. So I said, guess what, guys? I think the biggies see this log, this big tree over the road, because they don't want nobody coming up here. I said, guess what? We're going to come up here tonight, and we're going to find out what's going on. So, I'm happy to say, we come back about 10, 11 o'clock, or getting close to midnight. We was only camped about a mile away, and we walk up this hill, and I parked my Jeep. I turned it around. Like I said, it's a one-way road there. It was real dark, real scary. Windy, out, rainy, and I'm sure nobody would have been coming up anyway. But I turned it around anyway because there was a hairpin turn about 50 feet, going down the other way. So we get out and we walk up the hill, and we do some walking, man. Probably walked a half a mile or so, and it was like a 150-foot, 200-foot, pretty steep incline hill. And you can see my Jeep pretty good from the bottom when we got up there. So anyway, we meddled around up there for a while, and not much happening. I think I did a holler, a couple tree knocks, and it just wasn't nothing going on. So we thought. So on the way back, we get up at the top of the hill I just told you about, and down there where my Jeep's parked, right there by the fallen tree. And I was the first one to see it, man. I looked down there. There was a bunch of amber lights. A bunch of them. And I'm like, hey, look down there, y'all. It looks like a village. And what I mean by a village, some of them are short, some of them are medium-sized, some of them are really, really tall, and all different. They were all spread out around my Jeep, spread out. As I started counting them, man, I probably counted 15 of them. And then at the same time, I'm telling John Gregory and Eugene, I'm like, hey, man, I said, they're Bigfoots. And every one of their eyes were glowing. Best way I can describe it, them old orange, yellowish candles that my mom and dad, the bigger bulb they always had in the windows for Christmas. And it wasn't put off, like a flashlight beam or anything. They were just glowing. And around my Jeep, especially right in the back of it, there was a real tall one, and then there was a pair of 2 and 2 smaller ones down there like by my bumper. Then on the side, some of them are like even with the top of my Jeep. And the back of them, 2 of them are like 3 or 4 feet over my Jeep. So and they wasn't scared or nothing, man. And they were looking up at us, wasn't running. And we were still walking down the hill. We were getting real close, so probably within 40 feet. And Eugene seen them, John Gregory seen them. And all of a sudden, man, John Gregory yells out, here comes a car. And it was a big bright light. It looked like a locomotive light. And it wasn't 2 lights. It was just one big bright one. So I'm freaking out. I'm like, oh, man, it's probably a drunk load of teenagers, man. You're going to whip around at 90 and I smash into my Jeep. So I shine my spotlight over my Jeep down to the 90 to let them know, hey, I'm parked here. And at the same time I'm doing this, all these yellow lights, yellow orange lights, they're all running off to the left over in the direction of this big light. So then Eugene, my son, he goes, hey, that's no car. That's going through the ravine. And it was floating through the ravine, going right through trees. But boy, if you see a car light and you see trees in front of it, as it's coming, this thing was like going right through the trees, and it was over a 300-foot ravine. And like I said, it was bright as a locomotive light. I mean, just huge, bright white light. And it comes over to the left, and it wasn't nowhere close to the road. Like I said, it was over there, over the ravine. And it goes totally dark. And we see all the lights, man, the eyes, man, and they're running to it. So we're standing there, we're down there by my Jeep now, and 5 feet over to the left, we hear a real big bipedal creature walking. So John Gregory's looking at me, and he's like, his eyes are all lit up, and I'm like, yeah, man. I go, he's right there, dude, like 5 feet from us. And Eugene's going, Dad, is your Jeep going to start? Is it going to start? Yeah, because they zapped us before. A brand new Sears diehard, man, draining. Another thing an animal can do. So I said, don't worry about it, Eugene. I go, we're fine. Keep cool. So Eugene, he goes, look, Dad. And down there at the 90, there's two real big ones down there. You seen the yellow eyes down there at the 90 looking up at us. So I'm like, yeah, man. I go, there's two more. And he looked over to the right. He's like, look, Dad, there's more over there. So there's like two or three over to the right peeking around. You can see their yellow eyes again. I got quiet, man. Everything went away, and I think everybody was pretty freaked out, man. So we got in the Jeep and went back to camp. And when we pulled up to camp, John always keeps a light on in his tent, and it was a dome tent. And I'm talking to Eugene. I'm talking to Eugene or John Gregory, and Eugene's sitting in the back. So Eugene all of a sudden he goes, look behind John's tent. And we didn't see it, but there was a big black massive figure standing right behind the tent as we pulled in from this counter up there on the hill, which I later named UFO Mountain, because approximately a month later, me, Eugene, his girlfriend, Tanya, and another guy went out again with the same thing, man. We tried to recreate the scenario. Saturday night, after midnight, total darkness, nobody out in the whole forest but us. Turned my Jeep around, same place. And I took my brother, man, and he's still kind of on the fence. He believes me in all my encounters, but he's a nuts and bolts guy. He goes, hey, if it's out there, I want to see it. He goes, how come I never see nothing? I go, well, first of all, man, you got to start believing in them. I go, it's all about heart and soul, bro. So anyway, we're out there, and we do the same thing, go up the hill, hang out for a while. So we walk back down to my Jeep, and my brother, he goes, yeah, Greg, well, what is it, man? How come I never see nothing like you? Then all of a sudden, he looks up and he goes, hey, here comes a car. And there's two big bright lights. So again, I'm like, well, wait a minute. No motor, no tire sounds. I go, it's silent. And again, it took the same path as we've seen the locomotive light, weeks previous to that. The same direction that come up the road into the ravine, but this time it was two of them, two big old bright lights, and they were parallel to each other, but they looked like car lights, but way extremely brighter. So Art's freaking out. Oh man, well, what is it? Tanya seen it, Eugene seen it. Like I said, we all thought it was a car. It was not a car. And it was almost identical scenario of the encounter with all the forest giants and the brighter one we've seen. So anyway, everybody said, we was more adventurous, and we didn't see any forest giants, just a light. So we go, well, let's walk down there, man. Let's see what's going on. So we walked down to where the 90's at. It was real eerie, man, real creepy. I could feel something, but we didn't see the light no more. Didn't hear nothing. So we went ahead and called it quits for up there on like I said, UFO Mountain. After that, that's what we named it. And when we honestly feel this entity we're seeing can be either three things. It could be a portal coming in and opening up. It could be it's definitely a UFO. It's an unidentified flying object because it's flying. I don't know what it is. So I think it fits that category. Or it could be the supreme being, forest giant, arriving as they do travel in spiritual energy, as in orbs and bright lights. I don't know if they're that bright, as well as take their physical presence as a physical, what people call Bigfoot or Sasquatch, along with other shapes of animals. They could also take, I got more evidence of this also. I've had two of them that were little raggedy, scraggly cats outside of camp. It just, that's another old story in itself, but they were not cats. So, and then later on that night, after that incident I'll tell you about, right behind the tent, Eugene wakes me up and says, "Hey, Dad, there's two forest giants behind the tent grunting like pigs." And I'm like, "What?" And they was out there, you're walking around, and I'm like, "Oh, well, let them be, man. I'm tired, like no big deal." And that's what kind of encounters we're having out there now like that.
I want to ask you, so if you think that I know you had mentioned people there, but everything you describe as far as what they can do is not people-like. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I guess it gets down to what is Sasquatch. I don't know that anyone really can answer that question, but I'm always curious when people talk like you do, saying they're forest people, but yet they don't really do anything that's people-like. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, well, to an extent I agree with that, Wes, but what I mean by people, they can still be people from another realm, dimension, galaxy, or whatever you want to put it, but at the same time, they're still godly people. I think they have been created by the same creator that has created us.
And what makes you say that, just out of curiosity?
Well, believe it or not, I got it on audio. I got them talking on audio. I can send this to you later. But this is 100 feet back on my gifting stump where I gift them. First time I ever used it, last time I ever used it, I put an audio recorder underneath some leaves. And I put a turkey feather over it about 20 feet from the stump. So I'm telling my brother, a friend, and Eugene, and we went out there. I've had a bunch of donuts, stuff like that, pastries. And I said, "Look, I'm going to try this, y'all, first time ever. Maybe I'll get, some kind of noise, a wood knock. Hey, who knows?" I wasn't putting too much faith in it. And lo and behold, when I got home, I left it out there from about 11 o'clock Saturday morning, and we retrieved at 7 o'clock in the morning, Sunday morning, and you would not believe what I got. It's some of the most epic stuff, nonstop. From the minute we're walking out, my brother Art, I was telling you about earlier, he goes, "It is beautiful out here, Greg," and it really is, Lord. I go, "I'm so squatchy." And yeah, you can hear us walking away, and this is right off the bat, and you hear a, we're right here on the tape. So anyway, but what I'm going to tell you about that was shock you, as it has shocked us since last October when I got it, and I have took this to religious preachers, reverends. It has a very good biblical meaning to why I can prove they're godly creatures. Okay, first of all, I'll get right to the point of what I just said. One walks up, you can hear him walk up. He's either beating on the recorder or he's tapping on the stainless steel bowl I had my donuts in. And you can hear him 5 times. It goes like this. And then right after that, you hear a and then a couple seconds later, you hear more footsteps come up. And then in English, like a British accent, he says, "Yellow? What is that?" And there's a moment of silence, and he goes, "Ugh." And then you hear one walk off. He rips a branch off a tree and does a tree knock. You know, like I said, I can send you this audio, Wes. But this thing, right after the one speaks, what we call forest giant talk, where we hear mumbling all the time. It sounds like mumbling. But we never heard it like this, right on the tape. And then right after that, the one comes up and, with, Yahweh. So my point is, Yahweh, the Hebrews pray to him as God. The Cherokee Indian nation prays to him. That him and God is one. And for these to have Yahweh in their vocabulary, that is 100% proof that these are godly creatures. And the thing about that tape that I talked to with a preacher about this, okay, as he walks up, he says, Yahweh, okay, what is it? And it's real fast, it's real unhuman sounding, but it's really wild. So what is he saying? Is he walking up? Is that Yahweh standing there? As he says, Yahweh, what is that? Or is it like us humans when we say, oh God, what is that? And then right after when he says, what is that? I told you there was a brief silence where I think the other one was like going, like a human would do. This is a recorder. They have recorded this. And then he was smart enough to hide that right part of the tape, the audio. He put that on a save section that was it had like 12, a different date on it. It wasn't that October date, and that's how they can manipulate equipment. He did not want us to hear that, and Eugene's the one that discovered it on the tape. This is a brand new audio recorder that Charlie Raymond gave me. It is totally free of anything. He told me it was a top research legend in Kentucky that passed away, and he wanted to, keep the tradition going with it, and he gave it to me. And he assured me there was nothing on here. So that's why I'm 100% sure that they manipulated the tape and put that on a different section of it, and then the tape goes back to the other one walking off. But all during this audio, I mean, you can hear them eating the donuts. Back there grubbing out. There's tree knock, screams, hollers all through the night. And I got it all on this 21 hours plus of video. But the main thing is the Yahweh.
Yeah, would you send that to me? I'd love to listen to it, Greg. I'm fascinated, and I want to listen to it. I wanted to ask you though, could it be possible? being a researcher, that it's what they call audio pareidolia. And what I mean by that is like on the Sierra Sounds. If you listen to the Sierra Sounds, I had Ron Moorhead and Scott Nelson on. The show was entitled Sasquatch Language. But as we were talking, if you listen to the Sierra Sounds, you can go, okay, he's saying this. I mean, even I'll listen to it and I'll tell you what I think they're saying, and it's very close. But is it really what they're saying, I guess is my question.
Yeah, I mean, that is a good point. Is it really what they're saying? But how many people's recorded one speaking English? I think that's pretty cut and dry. I mean, it sounds very proper, too. And I can assure you, there wasn't no humans back there. We were basically the only ones in the campground. It was right after the other one speaking the Mumbling. I mean, we couldn't figure out what he was saying, but you can sure understand the AWOL part. So, you got me. What else could it mean?
Yeah, no, I hear you. And I was just curious to see what you thought. Well, you'll have to, please send me that audio. And please be careful while you're out there. Greg, I know you've been doing this for a long time, way longer than I have. And you just be careful, would you, when you're out there? You know what I mean? Always keep that guard up just in case. You know what I mean?
Well, due to a lot of pressure from my friends and Eugene and my ex-wife and everybody, they tell me I'm going out there alone. And I guess it makes good sense. I'll be 59 next week, so I ain't no spring chicken. If I fell down or got hurt, oh God, who knows? So I'll make sure I always go out with somebody now.
Well, and you have to keep me up to date on what's going on. I know there's so much more we could go into, and I don't want to keep you for the evening, but I really appreciate what you shared, Greg. I'd love to have you back on the show. Will you come back?
Oh, yeah, I'd love to. There's still a lot I would like to cover. I didn't even get to tell you about Curious George or some of my other better ones. So, yeah, I'd be glad to come back, buddy. I like to get the truth out.
Yeah, no, I'd love to have you back. And I'll post some of these pictures. You have some pretty good pictures here, too, as well. And then the audio, too, as well. But, Greg, thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I had a good time, Wes. Anytime, buddy.
Thanks, Greg. And that's it for tonight, everyone. Remember, if you've had an encounter, shoot me an email. My email address is wes@sasquatchchronicles.com. Until next time, everyone.
Something quieter with the lights on.